Okay, hello. This is Luke, and I'm listening to Beethoven, and I'm thinking about the multifarious questions I'll try to address in my take on the origin story for the Abrahamic faith tradition that permeates Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all the world's religions that begin with this Adam and Eve tale. And in discussing it, I've brought up how I would be inclined to feel more sorry for the commoners than the kingdoms, because they had more power and they overexerted it in view of the rights of the commoners. So that's something that about my view of life during those times that I don't think can be changed by any argument. And yeah, you could have, and Elaine de Botton talks about Bronze Age deals where involving a daughter. We'd like, if we could have a certain number of acres of your land, then we'll marry our daughter into your kingdom, and they could be inter-kingdom arranged marriages. But there also was inbreeding. So bloodline purity, I think, had in the Bible it had a level where it was to denote of nobility in terms of the kingdom. It did not denote like clearance from a ACT pathology lab. This is your arm could be cut or your leg wounded, and someone could come by and spit in it for good luck to help you heal. And that was a commonly held view about Bronze Age healing techniques. So when they talked and wrote of pure blood, they meant for the most part in the terms of kingdom. And when they weren't finding mates and when they weren't finding ways to deal with their sex drives, they basically went to wander out of this dimension of pure blood. So given the option of hooking up with a woman who milked cattle out amongst the commoners, a dude would do something with a cousin, sister, or auntie, or mother, or whatever, because there was no bloodline pollution to occur that way. So, I feel sorry more for the commoners then in terms of historical context, but I feel like I don't feel as sorry for you now to believe that these stories of theirs are literal truths about the facts of the origins of humanity, because you aren't subject to the pressures that the men who had these scribes write these stories were. Imagine that you were a nobleman or a prince in some kingdom. You're going to become a king one day. You're taught, here are the ways of a king. You will have by your side, you'll have your lawfully betrothed, lawfully wedded queen, and she is in fact a cousin or a sister. Imagine going through sexual maturation processes and your own sex drive, while it's drummed more dramatically into one head within this kingdom, what it is to be a prince and the ways of a prince and the way of a kingdom. My suggestion is their logistics were tremendously divided against their own instincts, and that this is what bears out in the logically necessary elements of the narratives they had written. Because, imagine if you're a dude and you're concerning women, the only question on your mind is, will mother and father choose my cousin or my sister? Like, or whatever the options are. Or do like a Charles and Camilla thing, like find a woman that's 30 years old or some shit. Like what surprises could they have in store? What they didn't have in store was non-blood relations, unless they were doing some sort of kingdom exchange. And there was kingdom exchange right down to how the Old Testament formed. With a Mesopotamian god named Yah and a Sumerian god named Wade. That's why you'll find two significantly contradictory accounts of things like the creation story, the order of creation, Moses and the commandments, because they merged one's god Yah and the other one's god Wade together to make a new god called Yahweh. So they were not only merged. So I'm sure, like if they'd be swapping people to marry off, but inbreeding within a single kingdom would have gone on as well, and it would have gone on prior to someone as important as a nobleman or a prince or a member of regency, thinking he could wander out and hook up with a screw a peasant woman. So yeah, I feel sorry for the commoners back then, but who do I feel sorry for more now? Between those in the kingdoms who were forced this educational structure on them unless they led a mutinous revolt against their own parents and kingdom. Or this smorgasbord of Christian and theological denominations going, well, Judaism and Christianity is, these stories reoccur everywhere. It's complementary. 30,000 screaming Christians can't be wrong. So do I feel more sorry for these people? It explains why. Like, if in this up and comer regal prince's head, his perspective, the wife is to be married off to his cousin, sister, auntie, whoever she was, disgusted with sex, but he had to do the right things in terms of the ways of a king. Then his mind would be at odds with his sex drive, and then that shows. So you imagine him reaching down to have a wank, and that makes him sexually aggressive. So that comes in the story of a woman was made from a ripped out rib that a man had. That's how women were created. You have it decorated. Like that inbreeding was going on. It's impossible to read the Genesis story without saying, yeah, okay, that's the claim that they're trying to make here. Not only that, they're trying to say there's a certain amount of perfection involved with incestuousness and inbreeding. And so that the dude's tastes, the guy within the kingdom, that his instincts and his taste for women had been so sickened by what was taught to him. And then he has the scribe write a story where this woman is eating an apple and she places a curse on the earth. So, yeah, who I feel sorry, who I feel sorry for more out of people back then who wrote myths because they were contending with being inbreeders, or monotheists now, theologians now, who want to say that there was something okay about centuries and centuries of sexing and reason to kill women, and that in fact Eve consuming just one apple is a sufficient motive for murdering Jesus. I'm inclined to have, between the commoners that these old kingdoms mistreated, I feel more sorry for the commoners than I do the kingdoms. But for you in 2020, going, it's the image of God and perfection, if we all just fuck our mothers and jerk off, murdered our brothers. It's so perfect for India. I've been inclined to say nowadays that no, I feel more sorry for you, because you've got all this volume of information at your fingertips, and you've got reason, you've got ways to know better, and those who grew up in these kingdoms would not have had any way to know any better about anything, and would have risked expulsion, execution, all these sorts of things for non-conforming. And now we have Religious Discrimination Act, and some of the things Christians are still saying. Do you think Christian that the snake in the Garden of Eden is the same as the rainbow serpent in the Aboriginal dream time? And the Christian goes, oh no, absolutely not. And you say, well, is that because of the colour of skin? And he goes, oh, okay. And then we get hung up on. Yeah, so it boggles my mind, because I find I feel more sorry for the commoners and plebs and those that were trodden on 4,000 years ago than I do those who authored these books like Genesis and the Pentateuch and the first 5 books of the Bible. But compared to all of you in the denomination, which denomination is true, and your assumed belief in the truth, in the literal truth of Genesis, all this inbreeding and incest and God's will and perfect and ways to create a species. I feel more sorry for you than I do those who I guess were ruled over into such situations. I'm going back to listen to more Beethoven. I wish you luck, books of Genesis critics. Try not to flirt with your favourite family member.
As for me, it's always been a source of bewilderment. When amongst themselves, religionists will love to, swing their dicks around, so to speak. Always on the theme and topic of how something was only made successful because of the metaphysical effectiveness of applied concepts from their religion, their contribution. And what I think is bizarre about is you got Freemasonry hiding at a distance, going, well, we're going to unify. What if they like 2 of the Abrahamic faiths had Adam and Eve, and the other one had like a giant turd that exploded and gave AIDS to everyone? Would Freemasonry's agenda be to convince and then make sure that you're 66.66667% convinced absolutely that the human race began with Adam and Eve, but also that you make some room in your hearts and minds for a giant explosive turd at the same time, and what damage could it do? No. So Freemasonry will be that. Like, it'll be that pathetic. It's why it has to hide. It has to hide because it's now little dudes, little Jesus hooning around on scooters will laugh and debunk their faith and their agenda in 20-second conversation. But what is it? Centuries and centuries of it's the woman's fault. It becomes not only that it's the woman's fault that a curse falls on Earth, but also that her existence and her purpose for existence is an auxiliary one, contingent to that of the will of a man. Specifically, that she be called woman, so that she is there for him so that he is never lonely. So in terms of why does a woman exist, if she asks herself that, she cannot answer the question. If we accept the Old Testament, scriptures of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, her existence is secondary, as it's all about keeping the man pleased when he's lonely. Thanks to the removed rib, that there's so many new things they can try out to do when he's lonely. And I think I've looked to some extent into Germaine Greer's writings, and I'm happy about feminist writers. I'm happy to see Ayn Rand. I've had to learn sexism can work both ways. You shouldn't just go that, well, Ayn Rand has got some things to say, and maybe I should read more. I can learn more about capitalism if I read more. But going right back, and it's like, I don't mean to make jokes when I say, like, we need to go back to the core of this eating an apple story, because I don't intend to cause additional controversy in my address, such as then. But both propositions are wrongs to be overturned. First, that a woman is. This is to imply that were it not for men having certain needs, women wouldn't need to exist at all. That's what the creation narrative directly implies. And then that she heralded a curse for eating an apple. That's the functional implication of the story too. So there's like a life debt on her shoulders that she now has to make up, rectify things in the minds of God and men. How many doorways does that open for mistreatment? So I can't find who's the opponent to this. Okay, let's just skip to generation 2 or 3 after Adam and Eve. Okay, they're making babies. We get to about generation 3, generation 4. Who's making babies with who? You start this conversation and you just want to vomit. You don't. This is the point where, for the sake of life to continue, having started with one man and one woman, you've got the incest generations powering on without helmets. Must have taken burning bushes and miracles of all sorts for them to even get by. But what this idea does teach is that, well, and it teaches a religious scholar of the Bible, if God or the Lord deem it appropriate, he'll make the race interbreed, blood relations interbreed. So knowing that there's precedent in it being the Lord's will, and then pedophiles. Everyone that looks at church community initiatives seems to have that. It's like a dormant sixth sense where they just want to go, well, where's the pedophile here? It's like, oh really, hell, shut. And like I admit, Rolf did have me thrown with that extra leg, but once I saw he smuggled a painting all the way into Buckingham, I thought, oh. He's I'm not a fan of the Rolf. But yeah. So this is why I find the story disgusting. It's taken literally. Symbolic. There would be more potential truth given what we know now, but that's been a sentient byproduct of star collision. Swamps where monkeys were chilling out and not being incestuous, and some stars collided with ponds where non-blood related monkeys were fucking in the stars. Evolutionarily transformative, and mutations occurred, and these sort of technicalities. Imagining this instead of this creation story, this is so much more. It's beautiful. It's somewhat how Bowie's would describe us in his lyrics in the 60s, that he sees there's a part of us that has to acknowledge that we've outgrown our youth, because the other animals. Christians throw these debates at you, like, you know, when you see a shark forcefully copulate with another shark, you don't step forward and go, oh look, behold, the shark rapes. So it forcefully copulates. We're animals, but I like his description. We've outgrown our youth. It's built on. I mean, it's built on nuances. Further discussed. Writers like side. What am I reading now? See if this upload gets hacked. Eden is. There's a brand of cheese blocks with your name on it.